Hey everyone, the Eurobandit here once again. And over here on my redneck workbench is a Pioneer SX-1250. Now some of you know that I did purchase a Pioneer SX-1250 a good few months ago, and I told you that it's in mint condition and whatnot. So you might think, this thing doesn't really look to be in mint condition. It's in acceptable used condition. Well, that's because I wasn't talking about this particular one, but rather this one. This is the mint Pioneer I bought a good few months ago. It's pretty much as good as new. Now you might think that I actually purchased another one of these. Well, I wish, but no. This thing isn't mine. Basically this thing works. It needs to be cleaned because it's quite dirty. So it needs a proper cleaning and whatnot. Well, the wooden cover has seen better days. The veneer has been painted, and as you can see, it does have some scratches. This thing has actually been stored in a bag in a basement for probably 10 years from what I know. So it definitely needs a bit of love, as they say. Well, I recently took the cover off, and as you can see, it's not dusty, but extremely dusty. So I have to take my air compressor and blow all the dust out. Now there's 4 light bulbs. I think that all the light bulbs are original. They're branded Stanley, so I bet they are original. And I'll just clean this top cover. As you can see, it's nice and brown as it should be from the factory. And this is pretty much how the wooden cover looks like. Managed to clean all the crappy black paint from it. Now this can be fixed pretty easily. Needs some speckle and some light sanding here and there, and then this thing can be finished with varnish. There's a burn mark over here, and this is the other side. Well, alright, as you can see, I've sanded the entire cover, and I really like how it turned out. Of course, I went for a lower grit sandpaper, but I could barely see the wood grain before I sanded it, and as you can see, needed quite a bit of speckle on the sides. Doesn't need a whole lot more, just a tiny bit, but it's all nice. Needs to be sanded, of course. Needed more on the other side, and it needed a bit on this corner as well. Alright, so as you can see, the wooden cover is now nice and finished, and the corners turn out to be nice and great. Same thing on the other side. I'm really satisfied with the results. Now it's time to paint it over the speckle. So I was thinking I'll paint this portion with brown wooden paint. Then I'll just paint the whole thing with clear coat. And as you can see, this is the underside of the receiver. I'm currently deoxidizing and lubricating the pots and switches, and on the SX-1250 it's not the easiest thing to do. Well, the more basic receivers, you just remove the top cover and you have access to all pots and whatnot, but not on this one. There's actually 5 circuit boards for different pots and switches, which are screwed in place. They have to also be unscrewed and taken out, and there's your access to them, as you can see. But other than that, the underside is nice and clean. There's really almost no dust in here, so I don't need to blow the underside. And this is the bottom plate. I just cleaned it recently, and it does have some scratches, as you can clearly see. Even some rust, surprisingly. Just a tiny bit over here. That's kind of weird, but I heard that it's been stored in a basement, so that's nothing weird about that. Usually the air is quite humid in the basement. Alright, so everything's now nice and done. I'm done with cleaning and lubing the switches. Now you may or may not notice a slight difference. Of course, it's all put back together. That's the very first difference, but the other difference is that the circuit boards are a lot cleaner, and the capacitors and pretty much everything. Yep, that's right. I went ahead and cleaned all the circuit boards and capacitors wherever I could get access. Now if you're wondering what I used to clean this thing, well, just an electronics cleaner spray and a small brush. Well, as you can see, the receiver is now my main setup, and it sits rather low, as you can clearly see. That's because the undercover is removed. It's over here, and I'm not gonna mount it back until I repaint it. Well, you might think that I could at least mount the faceplate back. Well, it's over here, and as you can see, it does have these wooden sides that I want to fix, so I'm not gonna mount the faceplate or anything until I get done with everything. As you can clearly see, I blew out all the air from it, and that wasn't enough because it was quite dirty, so had to clean it inside. Of course, I used electronics spray cleaner. The result is very good, and I'm quite satisfied. I found some dirt and even some candle wax. I think that one of the previous owners had candles on top of it, which is extremely stupid. But either way, it turned out to be nice and clean, and all the original lights work, as you can no doubt see. So nice and shiny inside. I'm very satisfied. So it's going to be like this in my setup for a while until I'll get finished with everything. Then I'll just throw it all back together. Well, as you can clearly see, I'm pretty much done with the wooden cover. It's now nice and finished, and I'm very happy with the result. Well, as you've noticed, the edges kind of have another color. Well, the issue is that, as we all know, varnish is transparent and it cannot stain. All the repairs would have been visible if I wouldn't have painted the edges. I just used half glossy wood paint for the windows, and I would have preferred it to be a bit darker, but it's alright, it's light brown. Can't see the speckle or anything. That's the most important thing, to cover all the imperfections and whatnot, because the edges were bad and they needed a lot of speckle. Normally should paint like 2 or 3 layers of varnish, but in my opinion this is the second layer and it's good enough for me, so it's gonna stay like this because it turned out to be very good, and the painted parts are just as shiny as the non-painted ones. So in other words, the paint blends in a lot better, so I'm very happy. As you can see, I've prepped the side panels for a faceplate as well. I just sanded them. This is pretty much how they look like, and I'm going to paint them with 2 layers of varnish as well, and they're gonna look like new. I found another good use for the tripod other than holding the camera. The side panels are now all nice and finished, and they're almost 100% dry. I mean, I can touch them, no problem. This is how the other one looks like as well. Really nice and shiny, just the way I like them to be. And here's the bottom plate. As you can see, it's finally done. It's all nice and painted with glossy black. It does look pretty much as it came out of the factory. I mean, you can't even tell it's painted or not, because as you can remember, it was all scratched. I can see I'm really happy with the result. Now, there were some bare metal parts when I sanded it, and of course it was scratched, and the parts that were scratched, well, basically that was bare metal, so the paint was scratched off in a few spots, and when I sanded it, of course some of the original paint came off, so I basically first primed the bare metal and then I've painted it with glossy black, and it turned out to be pretty much just like new. You can't even tell it it's been repainted. And here it is all back together, as you can clearly see. It's all mounted back together. I find I want this project, but I sure had fun with this project, as you can imagine, and it actually looks cool with these sides. If this thing would have been mine, I would have pretty much repaired it pretty much the same way, and then in the future replaced the entire wood veneer, but I don't have to do it on mine because, as you can see, well, you can't really see, but it's mint. But just look at that. It's beautiful. Even the side panels are all nice. I'm sure its owner will be very satisfied with it. And even the faceplate is nice and clean, and the knobs, they were really dirty, so I really had to clean them properly, but they turned out to be great. If you wonder about this part right here, this is its original color. It's not black. It's the same on mine as well. They're pretty much like this. If you want to repaint them, well, you can find a match in matte brown color. But anyway, that's pretty much it. Now I'm gonna end this video. Hope you liked it. If you do, why not? Thumbs up. Check out my other videos, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.